Weight shift is one of the hardest things for most amateur golfers to get right in the swing. And what's really important about it is that you need to understand that weight shift is the most important part of the swing. Now, wait a second, you're thinking to yourself, Chuck, you've also said that lag is the most important part of the swing, and that the impact position is the most important part of the swing, and the release is the most important part of the swing. How can weight shift be the most important part of the swing? Well, the truth is, none of those things can happen correctly if the weight shift isn't right. And what I'm talking about particularly is the weight shift during the downswing. That is where every amateur golfer on the planet seems to really struggle. The truth is, it's really simple, but you got to put your priorities in the right spot. So the first thing you've got to understand is, what does weight shift affect, and specifically what does it affect negatively and positively in the downswing? The first thing I want you to think about is how weight shift affects ball position. It seems kind of commonsensical, but a lot of people don't really understand it. Almost every amateur golfer that we have go through our golf academy at the Ritz-Carlton here in Orlando tends to have the ball way too far back in their stance. And it starts with a couple of chunk shots. You hit the ball a little fat, it's really embarrassing, the ball doesn't go anywhere, you lay the sod over the ball. So instinctively your brain says, well, let's just move the ball back in our stance a little bit, and if the ball's back, I'm more likely to make solid contact. Well, guess what that does to your weight shift? If I move the ball further back in my stance and I keep going further and further back, well, if I shifted my weight properly during the downswing, I'd top the ball or completely miss it. So what it does is it takes this one small problem that you had by not fixing the cause, you fixed a symptom. Instead of shifting your weight, you move the ball back. And as you move the ball back, you shift your weight even less. And so it becomes this recurring problem. Well, now what's going to happen to the rest of your swing is the entire sequencing of everything is going to be off. And it started with just not shifting your weight, and you had the ball in the wrong spot. So everything starts going off. So as you stop shifting your weight to the left, what's going to happen to your swing plane is it's going to tend to become very steep, because guess what? Weight shift to the left is what shallows out the swing plane. So I'm going to show you a couple views here first. So first I'm going to go here to the top, and all I'm going to do is just shift my weight. Just watch what happens to my arms and club. You're not going to see it from down the line yet, but I want you to see, I'm going to do nothing but shift my weight. Notice that my hands are dropping. This is due to gravity, me keeping my arms relaxed, and the fact that as I'm shifting my weight, I'm also starting to turn them a little bit. And as my pelvis rotates, my upper body's going to rotate. You'll see I'm not trying to turn my shoulders at all, but they're getting turned by my weight shift and a little hip rotation. That pulls my hands halfway down. Now, look what happens from down the line. As I go back to the top and I shift my weight, look what happens to the club. It looks like my hands work straight down instead of out toward the ball. That's that little mystery move that you see every tour player move at the top of their swing. It looks like their hands work vertically instead of out like every amateur does. Every amateur looks like their hands go like this from the top of their swing. The key to this is nothing more than weight shift. Keep my arms relaxed, shift my weight, look where my hands go. Straight down, right into the slot. That's a term that's overused quite a bit. My hands fall down here, and now the only thing I have to do from here, release the club, piece of cake. My arms and hands didn't have to do anything. They're being brought down by the movement of my trunk or my weight shift. That's how important weight shift is. If you don't shift from the top of your swing, the force of your movement is going to come from the top. And I've talked about this a lot in the flagpole video and many others about where your force of movement comes from. If you tend to lose your balance, what's really happening in the swing is that your force of movement is happening from the rectangle, from your shoulders up, right? Your arms, your hands, all of that stuff, instead of happening from here down where it needs to. And so when your force of movement happens from the top, guess what happens to the lag in your wrists and club? Of course, it starts to throw away. As you start to fire your arms really hard at the top or start to turn your shoulders really hard, you're creating a lot of early centripetal force that's going to result in centrifugal force acting on the club and causing it to throw away at the top, and that's how you lose lag. Again, the fix is don't try to hold lag, don't try to get something goofy with your wrist and try to reroute the club. Shift your weight. If you shift your weight, you don't have to fire your arms from the top, but the reality is if you don't shift your weight, you have nothing else to help move the club. So instinctively your brain's gonna be like, well, I'm not gonna hit this really weak, I'm gonna try to put some oomph into it. And so if I'm not using any of this, I've got to use something to move the club. So of course, the only thing you have is your arms and hands. So the first thing you do, you fire from the top. That's why most golfers lose lag. Again, it goes back to weight shift. So weight shift is a precursor for lag, which we're going to talk about next, swing plane, how it shallows out the swing plane, and getting the force of movement and the sequencing correct in your swing. Now I mentioned lag, and everybody wants more lag, and of course there's a good thing of having a lot of lag, but there's also a point of having too much. But I want to talk about just getting the right amount first. And again, it's really simple to get right if you shift your weight. If you shift your weight, you don't have to fire your arms from the top. So all you need to do, shift your weight, keep your arms nice and relaxed, your wrists relaxed. The club will automatically downcock as you start down, and you'll have all the lag in the world you need. But again, if your force of movement is from the wrong spot and you fire from your wrists and arms at the top, the first thing you're going to do is cast the club and lose lag. So weight shift is critical to getting the sequence of the swing right in the downswing. If you don't shift your weight, your swing plane is going to be off, your path is going to be off, you're going to lose lag, your impact position is going to be off, and everything's going to be off. So pay close attention to the weight shift drills in the weight shift section and start to master the sequencing of the downswing and get lag, swing plane, impact, all of that stuff correct for the final time.